The French Revolution began in 1789 and lasted until 1794. The current leader, King Louis, needed more money but had failed to raise more taxes than when he had called a meeting of the Estates General. It instead turned into a protest about conditions in France. On July 14, 1789, the Paris mob, upset at the conditions of their life and annoyed with their king and government, stormed the Bastille fortress. He tried to flee but was stopped and forced to agree to a new form of government. Instead of the king having power, a legislative assembly governed. The Republic of France was declared, and Louis was the first ever public execution of a king. The French Revolution was successful to a moderate extent as they had achieved great things such as getting rid of social classes and for setting up how Europe is run today. But during those achievements, there were also chaotic killings of more than 40,000 men and women. One of the major problems of French society was the split of social classes. There were three estates. The first, the richest, the second, who were rich nobles and didn't have to pay taxes, and the third, who had no power and were the poorest. Since the rising middle class did not fit into the neat division of the three estates, they were considered equal with the third estate, the poorest. The middle class grew in size and in wealth, but never gained rights or respect that they deserved. This caused anger and tension in French society as peasants and middle-class French people began to hate the nobles and aristocrats. This led to reforms of the government, and mainly King Louis, for abusing the lower classes as raising their taxes, but not giving them the credit and wealth that they deserved for carrying the country. Once Louis unwillingly signed the Constitution after all the revolt, it limited the power of the monarchy and helped the lower classes gain rights and power for themselves, to be equal to everyone else. This shows that the French Revolution was moderately successful as they have given citizens as they have gotten rid of the absolute monarch and have given the power to the people by creating a constitution in which there is equality between citizens. This clearly shows that the French Revolution was mightily successful as they had achieved a great milestone that would help set up the country for success along with building how things are run today. Another reason why the French Revolution is a moderate success is because of how it helped shape current Europe. The Revolution unified France and enhanced the power of the national state. The Revolution tore down the ancient structure of Europe and hastened the advent of nationalism. It also put equality of citizens before the law, equality of languages, and allowed for freedom of thought and faith. These beliefs are still used today as the citizens are similar to the U.S. as being able to speak their mind and be equal to every other citizen, no matter what you look like or what race you are. Most importantly, the country still has a constitutional government, which limits the power of Emmanuel Macron and allows for more thought and power for the citizens so they can't fall back to a monarchy like they were before. This shows that the French Revolution was moderately successful as a revolution helped unify the country along with making the constitution more popular, which then spread to other countries, helping create Europe as successful as it is today. This clearly shows that the French Revolution was moderately successful as a form of government that was adopted in the past is still used today, as well as going to other countries and becoming more popular. Therefore, this is a success. One reason that makes the revolution a moderate success and not a full success is because of the stain history it has. Notorious for one of the bloodiest periods in modern civilization, the Committee of Public Safety was a quiet group that worked with the government to kill all people that were not fans of the revolution. The leader, Robespierre, was around to kill more than 17,000 people that they believed to be enemies in France by beheading them, also known as using a guillotine. Now, at the beginning of the revolution, there was also a bloody instance known as the storming of the Bastille, like I said before. Citizens went and were killed, but then even worse, the heads of the people were placed on top of stakes and waved around cities, along with being placed on walls. This shows why the revolution was only a moderate success, as I take any killing as a bad thing, and I don't believe that the committee killings are justified just because they were not fans of the new revolutionary thoughts. Along during the Reign of Terror, it is also said that 50,000 people were killed for successful counter-revolutionary activity that is a tragedy and did not help the nationalism of the country grow. This shows why the success was only moderate, as the Reign of Terror era is known as one of the most remorseful and depressing periods of time because of brutalism that could happen to anyone at any time, which is why it lowered the success of the revolution. It lowered the success of the revolution. In conclusion, the French Revolution was a moderate success because of the problems and achievements that the country solved, such as equality, and for successfully setting up current life in Europe. But it was not a full success because of the stain it marks in history as one of the bloodiest periods with killings of estimated over 40,000 people.